Hey, Disturbed listeners, Love is Blind, Season 2. Let's watch.
God, you are bad. You will definitely never be my best man at my wedding. All right, cheers. Cheers, boys.
This whole experiment's been fucking crazy, but like, somehow it works. I developed strong feelings for two people.
I had deep, deep feelings for Shaina, but Shaina was always hesitant. I mean, she never really actually told me how she felt.
Okay, so this is actually in line with what he was talking about earlier in terms of he was saying, when Natalie indicated that she liked me, my ego went through the roof. And of course, that's normal. When someone likes you, it's normal to be like, oh my goodness, someone likes me. I guess I'm attractive or I'm interesting or whatever. This makes me feel good. That's normal. But given everything else we've seen from him, the fact that he kept retaining Shaina, even though it didn't make any logical sense and it was going to harm everyone, including himself, to keep entertaining that relationship well past him, explicitly telling Natalie that he's their boyfriend, girlfriend, which implies exclusivity. Anyway, especially given that he spent the whole time trying to apologize to Natalie, like, you're the only one, you're the one. Then immediately with Shaina, it's just like, you and me. What are you wearing? What are you wearing? And it's just like, ugh. So he was doing that. And so it lends itself, when you think about all that stuff, it lends itself to the possibility, we don't know, we'd have to ask him, that he is extremely focused on, because he feels inferior, he's extremely focused on frequent examples or indications that he matters, that he has value in some way, in some perhaps even superficial way. That, okay, with Natalie, she indicated she liked me. That feels good. That must mean it's good. And Shaina also indicates she likes me. But, because, the way he's framing it right now, he's like, look, I liked two women, but one woman was very upfront about the fact she liked me. The other one was reserved. And so I went with the one, instead of what you would hope someone would say is, like the other couples, I valued our conversations. I feel like we're compatible. I feel like we know each other really well. But for him, it's all framed around how much does the person like me.
I've talked to you and gotten such deeper connections with you in these 7 days than I talked to her for 6 months. Been such a short period of time, but I feel like I've known her forever.
So on one level, that's totally understandable that given the way that this exercise is, because of course we're just seeing these little snippets, but my impression is that they have just long stretches of time, particularly as they start to pair off, where they're just talking to each other. And there's no distractions, no phone. You can't talk about the movie you just watched. You can't talk about the food you're eating at a restaurant. You can't make out. You're just talking. It reminds me of when I was a kid and we'd be on the phone all the time because we didn't have like in middle school, you don't have a car or anything. And so you would just talk on the phone for hours there. Just the intimacy that's developed there. And so on one hand, that makes a lot of sense, and it's an interesting experiment. You'd have to wonder, if this gives people a better chance at finding the right one and maybe even bonding. On the other hand, I don't know what it says about, because it's not as if you can't bond and you can't have long conversations, but is Shane saying that, because he's saying, my previous relationships, long-term relationships, I was never very, it took me a lot longer to be close, in the way, were his previous relationships not very intimate in terms of emotions and sharing and that kind of thing to begin with? That's not an indictment on him, but, what does it say? I don't know.
Hi. So I'm trying to think of all of my thoughts and emotions about how I feel. And when I think about this whole experience, it's like this is exactly how I feel like we were supposed to meet. Are you okay?
I'm good.
Okay, now it's starting to look like the show and the producers are actively trolling Shane at this point, because Shaina doesn't immediately indicate who she is. And it just seems like they must have told Shaina to hold off.
Would love for you to hear me out real quick.
Okay.
Okay. I just wanted you to know that I do have deep feelings for you.
Okay, so poor Kyle, poor Natalie. Now, there's nothing wrong with Shane or Shaina liking two different people. There's nothing wrong with the two of them going, I don't know. I mean, I like this person. I kind of also like this person. I mean, it's a big decision. You're literally potentially saying, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this person. I mean, it'd be normal to have some ambiguity, particularly, I don't know how long they're along, but, it's fine. You can be ambiguous. Like Jarrett was. Jarrett was up front. He was authentic. He was like, hey, I'm having feelings for both you and this other woman, and I just want to be upfront about that. Jarrett was just like right up front, and he wasn't a jerk. He was just like, I want to be honest. I can't lie by omission. Both Shane and Shaina are lying by omission. Shane, we've already talked about, but with Shaina, she has also as well. When Kyle asked her to marry him, she clearly, body language was like, I don't know, but she said yes. And now, after that, she's going to Shane and saying, I have feelings for you. So she could have said to Kyle, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm confused. She could have said a lot of things, but she said yes. So, yikes.
Fuck.
So, if you're Shane, and in this moment you're thinking, well, wait, wow, that kind of throws a curveball. Okay. But in this moment, you should say to yourself, I must not be clearly that ready to marry Natalie, because, when I decided to be with my wife, if someone else came along and said, I have deep feelings for you, I didn't have this face. I wouldn't have been like, oh, what a delay. I'd be like, well, SOL. I just, tough luck, or what? Why? There's no threat there, right? Because you're in love and you're dedicated. Now, if you're polyamorous, I've talked about that. Who knows? But they're not, because if he were, he'd be like, well, let's talk about. Have you heard about polyamory? Anyway, so if you're Shane, I would hope that he would really look at himself and go like, okay, clearly I'm not ready to marry anyone, because I thought I was ready to marry Natalie. Shaina throws this curveball. Now I don't know. It's not a matter of like winning a game. It's a matter of like, this is the one for me. If you're monogamous, this is the person for me. And if anyone else comes along, it doesn't matter, because that's the one.
Okay. I said yes to Kyle because I do have feelings for Kyle. I'm just scared that I made a decision that was the wrong decision. I don't know.
It's totally fine. Go straight to Kyle and say, can I give the ring back? And I still want to be with you, I think, but can we give it some? Totally fine. Just tell Kyle.
It's like we wasted so much fucking time the last 2 days of not even talking. I wish you would have said that like
No, I know.
days earlier now, and it's like I felt the same way. I just wish we had that fucking time back the last couple of days.
I know. I took a back seat. I regret it.
The other possibility for Shaina is that she is overwhelmed with the prospect of committing to Kyle at this point and doesn't know what else to do other than to find, your subconscious will find a way sometimes to get out of things. And, as an analogy to this because, we're never going to see ourselves in a situation like this in terms of, the pods and stuff, but the common scenario is you're in a long-term relationship and you don't like it. There's a lot of aspects of it that have been eroding the love for many months, if not years. And one of the things that I'll see happen sometimes is in that space, because you're conflicted, because on one hand, it's like you want to leave, on the other hand, you want to stay. And your subconscious might drum up something to push you in a particular direction. And one of the ways that your subconscious will do that is to start obsessing about another person. And I've seen this many times where as someone has been in a long-term relationship where it's not going well, and they start wanting to flirt with a past, you might start thinking about a former partner. It's a very common thing actually for people to do when they have a valley of interest in their current partner. And suddenly it's like you can't stop thinking about your former partner or that person at work that you have a crush on, and you're just obsessing, you're thinking, and you're comparing, you're like, oh my God, they're so much better than my partner and everything, if only I could leave. And then say you do actually leave, you might even cheat and leave, which is not okay, but you leave, and then suddenly that person you were obsessing on, you're not attracted to anymore. You're just like, now that you can freely be with that person, your subconscious doesn't need them anymore, and you see that person for who they are, and you're just like, oh, why am I not attracted? It's because you weren't addressing your feelings to begin with. And so I wonder if for Shaina, she's not addressing her feelings, and instead her subconscious is trying to find something else to hold on to, Shane, and the process potentially ruining his relationship with Natalie. Now, Shane seems to be, I don't know what Shane is saying. He seems to be just upset, and something that I don't think we heard earlier, it sounded like he really liked Shaina and liked Natalie second, but and Shane kept asking, trying to get that going with Shaina. Shaina wasn't responding, and that's when Shane started to turn to Natalie. That's the way it sounds, and I don't think they really depicted that in the show. But anyway, so this is happening now. Now, if I were all their friends, Kyle and Shaina and Natalie and Shaina, I'd be like, okay, y'all, just call it off. Just let it go, get kicked off the show, meet up afterwards, and just start dating normally. Just you don't have to follow the format of the show. It'll ruin the show, but your lives are on the line here.
My pride definitely got in the way.
Shaina, God, fuck.
I know,
By the way, I'm reminded, remember earlier I was saying about that, integrity and true self. I'm reminded, looking at my notes actually, that she said earlier that she was engaged before to someone who was very controlling. So probably given that detail, that's what she was saying about integrity, that she was being abused and controlled, and the integrity of her was saying, you don't deserve this, you need to get out. So I was saying, does that sound like cheating? It probably, I don't know, but just based on, I wouldn't be surprised if she said, no. My true self and my integrity was about believing that I matter and that I don't deserve to be controlled and abused.
Listen, that's not for anyone else's business. You had the chance. It's just not happening now. The connection I have with Natalie is just so strong. It's too late for that.
Sometimes the night.
Okay, good. I mean, I didn't expect that, honestly. That's a good sign that Shane's he's busted up, because it was recent that he had feelings for Shaina. So it's, it's triggering something, and he's wrestling with it, and then he's like, well, no, my bond with Natalie is too strong, and this sucks because, I wonder what could have been, but, I'm with Natalie now, so, good for him.
You feel like you can get that out of Natalie, what you think you're wanting? I hope you do find it. I don't want to look like that person that's making judgments on what their life would look like. But I would be the only one that can really be that wife for him in a real genuine and authentic way.
I mean, I guess that's kind of normal to feel like, look, the connection that I had with him is special, and I know that this other person doesn't, or I feel like this other person doesn't have a connection with it. It's a weird scenario where you're falling in love kind of, and then you're watching this other person also fall in love with the same person. You're like, that can't be as real. The thing that they have can't be as real, because this is real, and if it's real, then it's exclusive. So it's kind of normal, but it is interesting that she can't. She's objectifying it. She's minimizing it maybe just to salvage her own ego on a certain level. So, but it is notable that she was saying something like that. She's basically saying, I think the relationship between Shane and Natalie is fake or isn't real. It isn't real the way it is for us, you know? I don't know. I think it's normal under that circumstance to kind of be wrapped up in that mindset.
Looking back, I just regret like not opening up sooner.
Walk the line of truth and light.
God damn.
Inside the dark inside us.
Okay, now I hope, Shaina, you go straight to Kyle and say, I gotta pump the brakes on this thing. I'm sorry. I just professed my love to someone else after you proposed to me. Clearly something's going on with me, and I'm sorry. I've gotta, pull back on this.
I don't know why. It's just the feeling that I have. That's just how I feel. I just think we've bonded over everything. Whew, man. I'm shaking over here.
Me seeing Kyle, I think it will give me clarity. I have to feel him. I have to touch him. I have to see him.
So it's just not promising. I mean, it's fine. It makes sense, but that state, because you wouldn't hear that from other people thus far. She's saying, once I see him, it's going to give me clarity. I think implying I'm on the fence about him, even though we're engaged, and I said yes. I'm on the fence, and once I see him, I think it'll, seal the deal or tell me, oh, maybe I shouldn't be with him, or something along those lines. It'll help to clarify. So it doesn't bode well for Kyle, I think. I mean, maybe she'll be like, oh my God, the way you look gives me clarity. I'm even more in love with you. But it indicates that there's shaky ground, I think.
Oh my God. You, look at you.
How are you?
Oh my God.
I mean, they're nervous and it's a strange situation, but let's rewind that kiss. Maybe, I mean, again, who knows what'll happen? Maybe they'll live happily ever after, but if we're going to embody the situation, I think that kiss kind of says it all. Let's rewind.
Oh my God. You, look at you.
How are you?
It's terrible to laugh. It's terrible to laugh. It's not okay to laugh. I'm not laughing at them. I think I'm laughing with them about the kind of awkwardness of the situation. All the other moments like that, because thus far we've seen, I never know when I'm going to post these videos. Sometimes they're out of order, but the Nick and Danielle moment, the Shake and Deep D moment, Shane and Natalie. I mean, certainly there's awkwardness because everyone's nervous and it's weird, but we certainly didn't see a first kiss that looked like that.
I'll never leave your side.
I see her and I'm like, shit, I'm a slouch. Way out of my league. Imagine you're standing next to like a supermodel. You're gonna feel like a piece of shit. That's how I felt.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I met my wife for the first time. I was like, I'm just not in your league. It's just, this is, there's really no point in us talking.
Yeah. I'm so physically attracted to her. It's crazy. Her being that attractive and sexy and pretty and cute is all a bonus to what I already loved about her.
No, it's crazy.
I mean, I don't know about y'all, and we'll see what happens, but I'm getting like an exaggerated version of like Jessica and Mark right now a little bit. I'm just getting that kind of vibe, right? Because Jessica wanted to be with Barnett and then downgraded her want to Mark, and now I think we're seeing a similar thing with Shaina. And are we going to see a similar thing? Maybe we won't. Hopefully we won't. Hopefully, for everyone's sake, everything works out fine.
Now what?
This engagement. I'm like scared that given her like differences and everything, if it's gonna be a problem.
Okay, good. You could have said it earlier, but all right, good. So I didn't think she was going to do this because she wasn't doing it, but this is great. She's like, hey, this engagement, I need to pump the brakes a little bit. That's totally fine. Very commendable that she's bringing it up.
And so I'm just like freaking out.
About what?
I don't want to make a mistake, and I don't want you to make a mistake. I don't want us getting caught up in like the excitement.
But are you willing to try? Are you willing to give it a try?
I mean, that doesn't look good, and it's fine. She could have said that earlier, and I understand that she was overwhelmed and like deer in headlights kind of a thing, which is understandable. But she could have said this earlier to say it. But never like the present. She is telling him, and he's like, "Well, you're willing to try," and she's like, "I don't." Is this based on how he looks? Because before she saw him, she's like, I'm on the fence, and if once I see him, it's going to provide clarity. Did seeing him provide clarity?
Part of me's like, go for it. And then the other half is like, be wise here. Like, it's for the best of you, like, not to go there. Because it could either be a really beautiful thing, or it can be very combative, and it can get toxic and ugly.
Yeah, good. Now, you could certainly have a lot of conversations about what it would look like for them to be together, given their religious differences. I'm really glad that she's bringing this up. I was terrified that she was going to wait a long time. She could have brought it up earlier, but no time like the present.
It's going to be such an amazing adventure with you, and I don't know what to do. I'm just being 100% transparent with you.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to make an effort. Have some hope.
Okay, so he's saying, hey, have some hope, please try. I'm all in, give it a chance. You have to try. And it makes total sense. But if I were his friend, I'd be like, well, you probably want her to be motivated without you being a cheerleader for the relationship. You know what I mean? So it sucks that she's on the fence, and you want her to not be on the fence, but it doesn't do any good to try to say, hey, don't be on the fence, or come on my side of the fence. Like, people kind of have to go on their own journey. You want to express that you're still solid about the relationship, because if it's true, but if she has ambivalence, I don't know if him trying to say, hey, don't have ambivalence is going to stop that. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.